Welcome everyone to the second Maritime SheEO conference. The theme of this conference is Celebrating Diversity, Change Makers and Sustainable Solutions. Founded in 2019, Maritime SheEO aims to create solutions that can impact the maritime and allied industries with a focus on diversity and inclusion, leadership, innovation, entrepreneurship, and competitive advantage. I'm Neetu Jaiswal, founder of Voxel, which is a specialist search firm for the maritime industry, and we specialize into show-based hirings. And on behalf of Maritime SheEO, I welcome you all for today's session, Emotional Quotient as a Leadership Practice Predictor by Dr. Deepti Mankad. When you think of a perfect leader, what comes to mind? You might picture someone who never lets their temper get out of control, no matter what problems they are facing. Or you might think of someone who has the complete trust of the staff, listens to the team, is easy to talk to, and always makes careful, informed decisions. These are qualities of someone with a high degree of emotional intelligence. This session will focus on getting acquainted with EQ and understanding how one can develop it in ourselves. Dr. Deepti Mankad, she's the founder of Mindspeak and is a professional development trainer and a marine life coach. For the last 11 years, she has been providing maritime training, coaching, and assessment for seafarers. She has a doctorate in multiple intelligence and is a certified maritime crew resource management trainer and also certified as a psychometric assessor by Thomas International Management Systems Limited by UK. She has been appointed as a regional head by Sailors Society for the Wellness at Sea program for seafarers since 2017, received the Glass Ceiling Award 2021 as a corporate change agent, got awarded the Kashti Bhushan for Maritime Life Coach and training at New Delhi in 2019, awarded Young Woman Achiever Award by the Help Yourself Foundation in 2019. She's been conducting trainings to various top-of-the-league shipping companies like Maersk, Goodwood Marine Services, K-Line, Epic Gas, Scorpio, Seaspan, Sealand, MTM, and also institutes like International Maritime Training Center, MMTI, TS Chanakya, Anglo-Eastern Maritime Academy, Tulani Maritime Institute, Institute of Maritime Studies Goa, MANET, Maritime Engineering and Research Institute. This session will focus on getting acquainted with EQ and understanding how one can develop it in ourselves. So I invite Deepti to take us through this session.
So today's session is going to focus on EQ as a leadership predictor. Now, earlier time, IQ was given a lot of emphasis. But just to tell you that by the age of 7, by the time we reach the age of 7 or maximum 8, our IQ gets stabilized and it gets fixed. So post that, your IQ will never change. But EQ, when we talk about emotional quotient or also emotional intelligence, that is something which can change. And that is something which we can develop. Now, why is EQ talked about so much in today's time? And why is it that it is surpassing even understanding of IQ levels? So first, let's have a quick look into a brief introduction for emotional intelligence before we move ahead.
Emotional intelligence is an essential part of the whole person. There is no known connection between IQ and EQ. You simply cannot predict emotional intelligence based on how smart someone is. IQ is your ability to learn, and it is the same at age 15 as it is at age 50. EQ, on the other hand, is a flexible set of skills that can be acquired and improved with practice. Although some people are naturally more emotionally intelligent than others, you can develop high emotional intelligence even if you are not born with it. Therefore, EQ coaching is a personal development process rather than a counseling program. At High EQ, we work on 4 major areas of your emotional intelligence development: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management. Combining these elements, you become more emotionally balanced, which simply means a much happier life.
So emotional intelligence will soon be the most desirable job skill. And this was a study which was published in the California Review Management. And this is very true because if you see in the recent times, we are looking for people with higher EQ. Now, why is it that the companies, the corporate sector, the working force, why is everyone's attention shifting towards EQ? So higher EQ leaders are more likely to make better decisions, engage and influence more effectively, and create the right mood for the job. Now, when we talk of emotional quotient, it is really a dynamic process in itself because each of its component, when we will discuss, you will realize how it shapes us as people in our personal lives, as well as when it comes to working together with other people. So when we talk of emotional intelligence, it's really essential to understand that why is it given so much of importance today. So first and foremost, let's understand the meaning of it. Emotional intelligence, or we also refer to as EI, is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and those of other people around you. So basically, it is a question to ask yourself, how aware are you about your feelings? How aware are you about how you express your feelings? And how aware are you about how other people around you are feeling? So people with a high degree of emotional intelligence know what they're feeling, what their emotions mean, and how these emotions can affect other people. Now, generally, when we are going through, say, for example, a difficult time, COVID has been quite difficult any which ways for all of us. Now, are we able to understand what we are going through in a difficult time? So are we aware how our emotions are working towards how we think? Because at the end of it, the way you feel, that is how you're going to think. And the way we think, that is how we respond to things around us. So it requires effective communication between the rational and emotive centers of our brain. And believe me, there is a lot of work which has gone into understanding EQ. So it represents the path between feeling and reason. Now, sometimes we fail to understand that what has influenced our decision when we take something. But the fact is, our emotions play a very vital role when it comes to decision making. So the brain science surrounding EQ is quite powerful and compelling. So studies have found that EQ is a required competency for effective leaders. Also, it is #1 predictor of professional success and personal excellence. EQ also affects organizational profitability and performance. Reason? A lot of studies have shown that people who have highly developed EQ levels are more productive at work. Thus, if you have more productive people at work, the profits of any organizations is going to increase. So let's understand emotional intelligence and what is the science behind emotional intelligence.
Since the dawn of humanity, the understanding of well-being and rational decision-making has remained relatively unchanged. However, recent discoveries in neuroscience and psychology may fundamentally change long-held theories about emotions and reasoning. One recent study analyzed patients who had experienced damage to the amygdala, a primitive part of the brain that typically regulates emotions. What they discovered was that these patients had often lost their ability to feel emotions and make basic decisions. The implication of this discovery is that our decisions are not determined simply by logic or emotions alone, but rather a combination of the two. When we make a bad decision that affects our well-being, it is typically caused by an imbalance between our reasoning and our emotions. This process of understanding and facilitating emotions into rational thinking is known as emotional intelligence. Originally developed in 1990 by John Mayer, David Caruso, and Peter Salovey, the theory of emotional intelligence can be broken down into 4 simple aspects. 1. The ability to perceive emotion. For humans, cues like facial expressions and gestures can indicate complex emotions that influence our understanding of other people, such as happiness, sadness, anger, and fear. 2. Understanding emotions. Emotions convey information. For example, happiness usually indicates a desire to join with other people. Sadness indicates a desire to avoid people, and so on. Each emotion conveys its own patterns of possible messages and actions associated with those messages. 3. Using emotions to facilitate thought. In recent years, cognitive scientists have discovered that emotions prioritize our thinking. Therefore, having a good system of emotional input can help you focus on things that truly matter. 4. Managing emotions. Managing emotions involves the ability to promote certain types of behavior through emotions and using them to your advantage. For example, if you're sad, you're more likely to be reflective and analytical. If you are happy, you're more likely to be social and outgoing. These 4 aspects that make up emotional intelligence inform our decisions, help predict life outcomes, and help us understand people in order to build healthy relationships.
So, emotional intelligence basically enables us to manage our internal resources so we can deal with the increased complexity and heightened emotion the crisis has caused. So it's very important to understand that when we go through a certain emotion state, how we can manage and regulate our emotions play a very vital role in how we are going to respond and cope with the situation. So let's look into certain things first, that is IQ versus EQ. It's important for you all to understand the difference in the two. So it's not your IQ, it's not even a number, but emotional intelligence may be the best predictor of success in life, redefining what it means to be smart. Now, like I said earlier, there have been studies which have supported EQ in the near time. So IQ is basically when we talk about our intellect, a strong intellect which we have, and experience may get individuals into professional positions. So I'm sure you all are in a certain position in your life. So if you look into this picture, IQ is just the tip of the iceberg, whereas EQ is much deeper. So EQ spells the difference between those who excel and those who underachieve. And basically, it's a major indicator of achievement. So it explains why individuals with similar intelligence can reach vastly different levels of success in their professional and personal lives, right? So even if you look into 2 people going to the same college, getting the same marks, but eventually in life, as they choose their professions and as they grow, maybe one has outdone the other. So the people who achieve more, studies support that their EQ levels are much more higher than the others. The research shows that IQ can help you to be successful to an extent of 20% only in your life, and the rest 80% of success depends on your EQ level. So gifted leadership occurs where heart and head, feeling and thought meet. And this is what Daniel Goleman has stated. Now, Daniel Goleman was the one who came up with this theory of emotional intelligence later, and he defined it with 5 major components. Now, each of these components, when we look at, can be developed gradually within ourselves to increase our EQ levels. So there is another study which was done by Dr. Travis. And according to his study, he said that 90% of top performers had high EQ levels. And EQ is responsible for 58% of your job performance. One interesting part of his study said that people with high EQ make $29,000 more annually than their low EQ counterparts. So I'm sure by now, at least we are clear that why are we talking about EQ. So now we are going to first understand this theory, and through this process, we will try and find out what is your EQ level today. So 5 components of EQ: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So these are the 5 components which make up one person's EQ level or emotional intelligence. Now, before I explain and before you also do your analysis of your emotional intelligence, like I said in the beginning, I want you to sit with a book or a pen or a notepad, right? So I want each one of you, I'm giving you 2 minutes. So kindly draw this table on a notepad and I will explain to you what we need to do after that. So this table comprises of, as you can see, the 5 components of EQ. And we have 3 boxes of statement 1, 2, and 3, and then a total box. So as you focus on this table, when you're drawing it, you will realize that for each component, there are 3 statements, which of course I will show you gradually. So this entire theory, which we will do today, we are going to do component wise so that you get an understanding as to which component of your EQ level is good, which is moderate, or which is low. Okay, so I hope you'll have drawn it now. So how are we going to use this table? It's very simple. I've made it extremely simple for you. So as we move ahead in understanding emotional intelligence, for each components, I will be showing you 3 set of questions. Now for each set of questions on the screen, you will also see a rating scale with the scores written. So the first rule is that when I show you, you will attempt it. And in this box, you are going to write in what are you scoring yourself for statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3. And then you will take a horizontal total. For example, if I'm sharing with you the first one, that is self-awareness, and suppose in the first statement, I'm giving myself a score of 3. All right. In the second box, my second statement, I'm giving myself a score of 2 maybe. In the third, I'm giving myself a score of 3. All right. So that means my total score on self-awareness is 8. I hope I'm clear. All right. So this is how your table will look at the end of all the 5 components. Right. So let's start off. So the first component which we are looking into is self-awareness. So are you ready for your questions? Here we go. So the first question, I can recognize my emotions as I experience them. Now the rating scale is right in front of you. Whatever you feel, yes, one thing is there, you need to be truthful when you're answering for yourself so that you get a good picture of yourself and you know how you can improvise, right? So whatever score you give yourself, you'll put in the first column of statement 1 for self-awareness. The second statement, I know my strengths and weaknesses. And the third statement, I ask people for feedback on what I do well and how I can improve. Okay, so these are the set of for self-awareness. So as you have entered the score in your table, kindly take a total and keep it ready. All right, now let's understand what is self-awareness. Now self-awareness is about understanding your own emotions. You should be able to figure out how you're feeling about things around you. So people with high EQ are usually very self-aware and they understand their emotions. And because of this, they don't let their feelings rule them. Now, why is it important to be self-aware? So that you know how you feel in different situations. Suppose you have slight anxiety issue, for example. Now, if you are self-aware, you would also be aware of the triggers which would make you anxious. Say you have a temper issue. So if you're self-aware, you would be also aware what are the things which would snap you suddenly. So what are the triggers which would make you angry? So they are also willing to take an honest look at themselves. So we will introspect, we will look into ourselves, we try and analyze why are we feeling in a certain manner. So they know their strengths and weakness and they work on these areas so that they can perform better. So being self-aware is extremely important because that will make you more realistic towards yourself. Now we should not stay in a bubble always, right? We always feel and believe that people around us where we are working, everybody likes us, they like our style of working, they like our approach. So it's better to be more realistic. We need to be a little bit more critical about seeing ourselves. So people with high EQ always work towards improvising themselves. So as a leader, being self-aware when you're in a leadership position also means having a clear picture of your strengths and weakness, and it means behaving with humility. So you should be aware no one is perfect, so I should know what my weaknesses are and how can I turn them into my strengths. So that is the first component of EQ, that is self-awareness. The more we work towards our self-awareness, the more we are aware of our actions, what we speak, how we speak, the more better it would be for our team. So you must have got a score. Like I said, we are on the first component. So if you've got a score between 3 and 7, you need to work on improving your self-awareness skills. If you've got a score between 7 and 11, it means you're moderately self-aware about your emotions. And if you have got a score between 11 and 15, it shows that you have a good level of self-awareness. So self-awareness basically gives us power to decide what to do with what we feel. We may feel a certain emotion, but it's not necessary that we react to it immediately or in a manner which may be not liked by anybody else. So feelings we all have, but high EQ people know how to moderate their feelings. All right. Now, how can you develop self-awareness, or if you're wanting to improvise yourself or make yourself better at that? So firstly, keep a journal. Now, I know this might sound like, what do we do by keeping a journal? But believe me, this is a very effective way of knowing oneself. So if you spend a few minutes each day writing down your thoughts, this can move you to a higher degree of self-awareness. It's like having a diary. Sometimes it's very important to write down. I personally feel that when we write down what we are thinking, it gives us a flow of thought. And sometimes we are able to pen down much more than we can speak. So when we pen down what we are thinking about ourselves, how the day went, and about how we are working, it gives us like a feedback, a self-feedback. And that's why we say self-talk is also very important. So introspect. Self-reflection is essential to rewind and rethink what happened, why it happened, and what could you do differently. So sometimes at work or sometimes at home as well, we may have a conflict situation and we have a discussion. Sometimes it goes our way, sometimes it does not go our way. Sometimes we get snappy or sometimes the other person gets. So after that, before you sleep at night, do you introspect? Do you try to rethink what happened and question yourself that why did this happen in the first place? Could I handle the situation a little differently? If I would have spoken in a different manner, would it have a different consequence? So you really need to introspect. Seek feedback. Now it's important to take feedback from others as it shows us a perspective which we tend to miss out. Now, when we talk about feedback, one thing here I would like to tell you is from where and whom are you taking feedback also is very essential. Say, for example, I'm a trainer or I'm a coach and I take sessions, I do trainings. So if I need a feedback, I need to get it from my students and from my participants and not from, the company director who has not even attended my session. So it's very vital to understand from what is the source of the feedback you're getting. So the people whom you're working with, whether they are above you or below you, they are the right people to give you feedbacks, or even your peers. So seek feedback and slow down. When you experience anger or any other strong emotion, you need to slow down and you need to examine. You need to ask yourself, why am I responding this way? No matter what the situation is, you can always choose how you react to it. Now, there is a difference, in reacting and in responding. We tend to react very quickly. In fact, majority of the times we choose to react. So reaction comes with an impulse. So maybe you're not thinking right at that time. You just wanted to say something, so you did it. It could go anyway. But responding is when you take a foot back, you think about it, understand it for a moment, spend few minutes, and then you open your mouth and you say what you want to say. So when we react, we are very impulsive. But when we respond, we could be spontaneous, but we are calculating before we speak. All right. The second component is self-regulation. So if you are self-aware, only then can you regulate yourself. Now, I know if I say, for example, I know I have an anger issue. Only if I'm aware of it, will I be able to regulate my emotions. Now, people with high EQ are very good at regulation. All right. So let's have a score of your regulation. So again, the 3 set of questions for y'all. The first one, I lose temper when I feel frustrated. So kindly mark your scores. Second, I know how to calm myself down when I feel anxious or upset. Kindly carefully look at the scores because some of have reverse markings as well. And the third one, I find it difficult to move on when I feel frustrated or unhappy. So again, 3 set of questions, mark it and write your scores. Now, when we talk of self-regulation, please remember, it's not that people with high EQ are insensitive. It's not that. And it's not that people with high EQ will not have an emotional breakdown. Okay, it's not that also. But people with EQ, higher EQ, they know how to regulate the emotion at the right time. So you may be in a very tough situation, but if you have the ability to control your impulses for the moment, because you need to handle a lot of other things around it for that time. then we can say that you have a good sense of regulating your emotions. So this is the ability to control emotions and impulses. And people who self-regulate typically don't allow themselves to become too angry or jealous, and they don't make impulsive or careless decisions. They always think before they act. All right. Now, say, for example, you are in a conference and you're one of the speakers and you've prepared so much for it. It's a big day for you and you're going up to give a talk. Now you get a message on your phone that maybe somebody from your family is not well and is in the hospital. Now, of course, at that time, you are going to feel emotionally swayed. But you know that there are other family people with the person at the moment. So what will you do? So you have two choices. Either you will decide to just leave the conference and go, which again will come to your mind and you'll think, oh, this is so unprofessional. Or you handle yourself, you regulate your emotions, you control yourself, you finish your talk, and then you leave for the hospital or wherever you have to go. So how much can you control yourself when you're facing such a huge crowd, when you know that something like this has happened already? So when we talk of self-regulation, it's not that we are feeling insensitive towards the other person. Absolutely not. But we try and balance our emotions. We try and understand our responsibilities and we handle the situation accordingly. So there would be many times that, we women, when we are out at work and suddenly you get a call from home that the son has fever, and we suddenly feel this guilt. And I don't know why we feel the guilt that, oh my God, I wish I was at home. Or I wish, I would not have come for a meeting. But the fact is, there should be no guilt. So we should know how to manage our emotions without feeling or put or cornered or feeling, oh my God, if I don't show a response, then people might feel I'm insensitive, I don't care. But that is not the truth. So people with high EQ, they exactly know how to regulate their emotions. They know how to maintain a balance, and they will always think before they take any decisions. Now the score also, I'll just share with you the interpretation. As a leader, when you are in that position, where you're heading a team, leaders who regulate themselves effectively rarely verbally attack others or make rushed or emotional decisions. They would avoid even stereotyping people or compromise their values. So self-regulation is all about staying in control. Okay, so that is what is self-regulation. So you may have got a score either 3 to 7. So if you've got a score of 3 to 7, you need to work on improving your self-regulation skills. If you've got a score of 7 or between 7 and 11, you need to regulate one's responses to, you are moderate enough to do that. 11 to 15 is able to self-regulate in different situations and take controlled decisions. So self-regulation of emotions basically includes the abilities to inhibit first responses, to resist interference from irrelevant stimulation, and to persist on relevant tasks even when we don't enjoy them. So you should know how you should control that situation, and that will happen when you take informed decisions. So when we talk of self-regulation, the characteristics are 5. Thoughtfulness, that is, you need to give it a thought before you speak. Comfort with change. Now, this is one thing as humans, we always resist change initially. We don't accept it very easily, right? So here today in this forum, we are talking about diversity, we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about women in the marine. Think about it, how it was, a couple of years back. But you need to understand that when change comes, it evolves many things around us also. So you have to have that comfort with whatever change is coming about. Integrity talks about commitment towards yourself, towards your work, towards your people, and the ability to say no. So if you feel that it is against your value system, if you feel that it's against your principles and you're not comfortable, people with high EQ can stand up and just say that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. So you should have the ability to say no. So how can we improve this? If your scores are moderate or less, first, you should be aware of your own values. You should have a clear idea that what are your values? Do you have a clear idea of where you absolutely will not compromise? And how important are the values for you? So you need to understand. Then hold yourself accountable. If you tend to blame others when something goes wrong, you need to really stop that. Each one should be responsible for their own decisions and for the consequences as well. So make a commitment to admit to yourself that your mistakes are yours and to face the consequences no matter whatever it is. Practice being calm. Now, this is also important. So sometimes, when we get really upset, everyone has different ways in showing their anger or in removing their frustrations. But we need to remember that to practice self-regulation, we also need to practice how to be calm. So the next time you are in a challenging situation, be very aware of how you act. So do you relieve your stress by shouting at someone? If so, you need to stop that as well. So practice deep breathing to calm yourself down. So you take in the breath in the count of 4, release it in the count of 8, gradually. It's very important to first calm yourself down, and then it will give you a clear mind space to think again. The next component, third one, is motivation. Now, motivation, when we talk in psychology, what is it? We say that motivation is a drive which we have within us, which pushes us to achieve or to get what we want in life. Now, there are two types of people. One, who are intrinsically motivated, self-motivated. So people with high EQ are actually self-motivated. And that's the reason why they have this in them to motivate other people as well. Now, you may be hearing, when we see such successful women in this industry today, and, we always say, oh God, you really inspire me, or I look up to you. So why do we get to hear that? It's because there is something in that person which makes us feel that wow factor. And that is nothing else, but that acts as a motivation for us. So you need to believe in yourself. Let's have a look into the third component. Here are your questions. First one, I find it hard to focus on something over the long term. So kindly mark your answers. Second, I feel that I don't enjoy my work. And third, I feel long-term goals. I set long-term goals and review my progress regularly. So kindly mark your scores and take a total. Okay. Now, when we talk of motivation, it is people with a high degree of emotional intelligence are usually motivated. They're willing to defer immediate results for long-term success, and they're highly productive, love a challenge, and are very effective in whatever they do. Now, the problem is that when we are working towards a certain thing, or we want to achieve a certain milestone in our life, or even the goal which we have set for us, the one thing which brings us down is if the first thing we are trying and we are not succeeding in the first attempt. So it pushes us out. Or we really want the results really quickly. But the fact is, any goal we set, anything which you want to achieve in life will take its own course of time. We need to understand that patience is really, really important. So when we talk about motivation, it is not that, all right, I want this, I have set this goal, and now you're expecting to accomplish that goal in a month's time or 2 months' time. That does not happen. If you really have good goals set for you, you need to understand it is going to take some time. Okay. Now, if we give up midway, that, oh God, I've invested 1 year, 2 years, it's still not happening, so I just don't want to do it, I think it's not going to happen ever. If you feel that way, that means your motivation has come down and you're not understanding that anything to bloom or to blossom takes its own course of time. So self-motivated leaders work consistently towards their goals, and they have extremely high standards for quality of their work. So they will not accept mediocrity. They will not accept people, teams, all of them working together who are giving substandard work outcomes. So if you want a strong team to develop, they also need to understand that patience is the key. And during that time, if none of it, the effort which you're putting, none of it is actually going wasted. So to support this, there is a wonderful video on understanding how motivation works and how our goals work in life. Let's have a look. All right, so let's look into the interpretation of your scores. So if you've got a score between 3 and 7, your motivation levels are low. So you need extrinsic motivation. That means you need someone to motivate you enough. 7 to 11, fairly motivated to do work and tries to motivate others as well. And 11 to 15 has good level of intrinsic motivation and will always try and motivate others, has good level of energy. All right. So when you feel like quitting, think about why you started. And I'm sure, I think everyone attending this also, there may have come a time in life where we feel, oh my God, it's better I just leave and I stop. And then there is something which reminds you of the purpose for what you are and what you want to do and where you want to be. And then you again get up and we start doing it again. Okay. So if you pick up any story, I'm sure all the women at Vista and even otherwise, they all have their own stories and they all have, a milestone in their life which they have achieved. And I'm sure that is not because of just doing it for a year or two, but it's about persevering it year after year to reach where you are today. All right. So how can you motivate or be motivated enough? First is re-examine why you're doing your job. So it's easy to forget what you really love about your career. So take some time to remember why you wanted this job and make sure that your goal statements are fresh and energizing. So if you have chosen your profession by your choice, so you need to rekindle that passion which you had years back and start looking at your job with a new perspective. Know where you stand. So determine how motivated you are to lead as well. So when you have people who are working for you, you have to understand that you have more responsibility than ever, because you have to not only keep them motivated, but you have to mentor them to make sure that they reach where they have planned their lives to go. Be hopeful and find something good. So every time you face a challenge or even a failure, try to find at least one good thing about the situation. It might be something very, very small, like a new contact, or something with long-term effects, like an important lesson you have learned. And I think COVID has taught us a lot of life lessons, which I think we will remember for years to come. So you need to find out that whatever happens, it happens for a purpose. But the purpose you come to know way after that event is over. When you reflect back and you think that, all right, now today I understand why that had happened. So try and find at least one good thing in every situation, no matter how bad that situation is. The fourth component is empathy. And I always feel this is one of the most important human skills and feeling we need to have today. This is what makes us human. And this is what connects us with people. So empathy is extremely important when it comes to leadership positions, when it comes to understanding how we bond with people. So listen to understand and not to respond. When someone speaks to us about something, are we paying full attention to the person? Now, empathy is very different than sympathy. Sympathy is you might just superficially say, I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sorry for your situation, and pity. But empathy is when you put yourself in the other person's position, or as we say it, in the shoes of the other person. You feel the pain and you take some action to help that person come out of that situation. So empathy is action driven because you are doing something to bring that person out of that situation so that that person feels better. So for doing that, it's very important to perceive, understand, and feel what the other person is going through. So let's have a look into the 3 set of questions for empathy. First one, people have told me that I'm a good listener. So please mark your answers. Second, I find it difficult to read other people's emotions. Yeah, we do have people like those, who are just not able to understand what the other person is going through, or maybe what the person is feeling. And the third one, I use active listening skills when people speak to me. So please mark your answers. So before I move on with empathy, I think it's important we see empathy, right? So this is a beautiful video on empathy. And I think the video says it all. And I'm sure all of us will understand what empathy actually means. All right, so let's have a look.
So this life has given everyone a present, beautiful, shiny and new. Everyone but you. Golden ribbons, diamonds line everyone's path that leads to wide open doors. Everyone's but yours. Wide open doors. Hold on, keep on, even when the road seems very long. Open your eyes, even if it's cold now. There's one thing you should know. Rain will turn into snow. All the rain turns.
So like I said, it's about firstly understanding and identifying what the other person is feeling and what the person needs. So empathy is the ability to identify with and understand the wants, needs, and viewpoints of those around you. So people with empathy are good at recognizing the feelings of others, even when those feelings may not be very obvious. So as a result, empathetic people are usually excellent at managing relationships, listening, and relating to others. So like I said, it is action driven. Till you don't understand the other person's emotions, how are you going to help the person? And how are you going to connect with the person? So like I said, empathy is something which in today's time, I feel is one of the most important things which needs to be developed, because I think in this human world, we are becoming less human. So it's very important to feel for other people around us as well. So for leaders, having empathy is critical to managing a successful team or organization. So leaders with empathy have the ability to put themselves in someone else's situation. They help develop the people on their team, challenge others who are actually acting unfairly, and give constructive feedback and listen to those who need it. So empathy as as a skill needs to be developed. You need to understand how to understand the feeling of other people. The best organization is that organization where you value relationships, where they feel a sense of belongingness. And those are the companies who will never have a problem with the people who are working there, because the people will not leave the company. So it's very essential to connect with people as people with humans as humans. So if you have got a score of 3 to 7, it shows that you have low levels of empathy, not very good at understanding other people's emotions. If you've got a score of 7 to 11, has fair amount of empathy and tries to see other person's point of view, but you can improve further. 11 to 15 has good understanding of other people's emotions, is proactive in seeking solutions. And that's why I say empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, feeling, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. All right. So how can you develop empathy? First is consciously put yourself in someone else's position. Okay. Try and see the other person's perspective. Now, generally, you know what happens at work. Sometimes some people behave in certain manner which we don't like. So we always say, oh God, you know, this person behaves so badly. This person does not know how to speak. Why is this person so irritated all the time? But we do not dwell into why that person is behaving this way. So we need to make investments in human relations. We need to understand that why, if there is an employee who's working for you, why is that person behaving in a certain manner? So try and put yourself in that position. Pay attention to body language. That gives you an opportunity to respond appropriately. Are you a keen observer? Do you see when the person walks in or when the person is talking to you? Is the person slouching, sitting straight? Is the person making eye contact or not? Is the person looking nervous? Is the person looking sad? So please pay attention to the body language of the person and then respond to feelings. So when we talk to people, when we are wanting to help the person, we need to respond to how the person is feeling at that moment. So try and practice this. It will really help to improve your take on human relations. All right. The last set is for social skills. So let's have a look. Question number 1. I enjoy organizing groups. So kindly mark your answer. Second, I avoid conflicts and negotiations. And third, I struggle to build rapport with others. Okay, so you mark your answers, get yourself a score. And this is the 5th and final component of emotional intelligence, or what we term it as EQ. So social skills basically reflects on our communication skills, our conflict resolution skills, our basic normal interactions which we have with people, and team building skills. Now, when we talk of social skills, these are skills which are required when you are working with people around you. So those with strong social skills are typically team players. Rather than focusing on their own success, first, they help others develop and shine. And actually, this is a true sign of a great leader, because the leader has already reached that position. So how can you help the others develop and grow in life? So they can manage disputes, are excellent communicators, and are masters at building and maintaining relationships. So when we look into social skills, as leaders who do well in the social skills element of emotional intelligence are great communicators. So they are just as open to hearing bad news as good news. And they are expert at getting their team to support them and be excited about a new mission or project. So it's very important. Like I always say, communication is a core skill. if you're not a good communicator, you will never be able to connect with your team. So it's essential that you develop that aspect of yours where you consciously go up, talk to your team people, talk to your employees, talk to your friends, talk to your peers, and find out how things are going in their lives. Okay. Apart from just professional relationship, it's very important to also know the pulse of your team. So leaders who have good social skills are also good at managing change and resolving conflicts diplomatically, because you don't want to hurt anybody. Okay, you actually understand why a person may have responded in a particular manner or even reacted. So they are very good at resolving conflicts. They are rarely satisfied with leaving things as they are, but they don't sit back and make everyone else do the work. They themselves set an example with their own behavior. Now, again, today, if you are in a position, you expect your team to perform in a certain manner, all right, or to follow certain norms or protocols at work. But are you following the same? So as leaders, you should always walk your talk. If you are not doing something, you cannot expect your team to do it. So try and always set examples so that when they look up to you, they know what they have to do as well. So if you have got a score of 3 to 7, you need to work on improving your social skills. If you've got a score between 7 and 11, then you have fairly good social skill and is able to connect with people. 11 to 15 has good social skills and communication skills. So you help people to develop their skills and perform better. So social skills are developed by interacting with our fellow human being face to face and not by using only social networking sites. Because when we are using our social networking, WhatsApp, everything has become so technology driven. We have emote icons, but are we actually feeling it when we are sending an emote icon to someone? We can't see the expression, we can't feel the emotions, but they're just pictorials which are coming across and we feel, okay, this is what it is. But the fact is, when we talk about building relationships, it has to be face to face so that we can see each other, we can understand the expressions of each other and get a feeling of the other person's emotions. So how to build your social skills? First, learn conflict resolution. So leaders must know how to resolve conflicts between their team members, whether it's team members, customers, vendors, anyone. So how can you learn how to resolve conflicts? Improve your communication skills. Now you all must be knowing how good or not good you are at your communication skill. Knowing is one thing, but are we working towards improving how we speak to people or not? Sorry. Learn how to praise others. This is very important. I don't know why we don't appreciate our fellow people. Very seldom do we do, but it's very important to praise others. If they've done something good, it's important to acknowledge it. Remember, we spoke about motivation. So when we appreciate someone, it may be a motivating factor for that person. And believe me, all humans require appreciation. No matter what we say or do, be it in any form. But when appreciation comes in, it makes you feel good about yourself. And so we work with even more zest. So appreciation is something which I think everyone needs, and so we should do it. No matter who the person is, maybe some person in your team has done a good job. Learn to appreciate other people. Learn to be happy with other people's success. It's very important. So now, finally, what's your EQ level? So for this, I would want you now to take the total of all the 5 elements, what you have scored so far. So you will have a total column, add it up vertically down, and you'll get a grand total of all the 5 components. So I'm giving you a minute. Kindly total up your scores. Right. So if you've got a score between 15 and 34, you need to work on your emotional intelligence. You may find that you feel overwhelmed by your emotions, especially in stressful situations. Or you may also avoid conflict because you think that you'll find it distressing. So it's likely too that you find it hard to calm down after you have felt upset, and you may struggle to build strong working relationships. All right. So it's fine even if you have got a score between this, but there are ways in which you can develop, which we have already discussed. So you can start working on developing component-wise how you can improve that particular aspect. If you have got a score between 35 and 55, so your emotional level is okay. You probably have good relationships with some of your colleagues, but others may be more difficult to work with. So the good news is that you have great opportunity to improve your working relationships significantly. And if you have a score of 56 to 75, you are an emotionally intelligent person. You have great relationships, and you probably find that people approach you for advice. So however, when so many people admire your people skill, it's easy to lose sight of your own needs. So this is one thing you need to be careful about, that you also need to fulfill your own needs. Researchers have found that emotionally intelligent people often have great leadership potential. So realize this potential by seeking opportunities to improve even further. Right? So let's have a recap of what we have done.
Ability to recognize, interpret, and process emotions in yourself and others. While genetics, upbringing, and environment all play a role, there are steps you can take to develop your emotional intelligence over time. Get to know yourself. Emotionally intelligent people are self-aware. They have a realistic appreciation of their strengths and weaknesses and how they come across to others. Peer feedback is one way of improving your self-awareness and may uncover a few of your emotional blind spots. Learn your triggers. Linked to the notion of self-awareness is knowing how you are likely to respond in particular situations. Think about how you felt the last time you were under pressure. Did these feelings help or hinder you? Recognizing emotions and the source of these emotions can shift your emotional state. Empathize. Seeing things from someone else's perspective will help you understand their values and beliefs. This is important when it comes to motivating and engaging others. Make a conscious effort to get to know your colleagues. Ask open questions and actively listen to what they have to say, rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. Be on the lookout for body language and other non-verbal signs, as these may tell you more than someone is willing to express out loud. Own your emotions. Part of being emotionally intelligent is about taking responsibility for the way you interact with others. If someone upsets you, pause and reflect on why their actions led you to feel this way. instead of reacting impulsively. Recognize that a conversation is a two-way interaction, and it takes two people to make you angry, sad, or frustrated. Go with your gut. Finally, listen to your body. If your stomach starts doing backflips every time you speak to a senior manager, or your muscles tense up before you go into a meeting, what does this tell you? Counterintuitive as it might seem, emotions can be a valuable source of information when making rational decisions at work. Remember, emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about learning how to recognize, process, and channel them in a way that benefits you and your team. Enhancing your emotional intelligence requires effort, but it can be achieved with sustained.
Right, so coming to the last part. So there is an inseparable relationship between emotional intelligence and leadership. So leadership begins and ends with inner strength, requiring the ability to understand ourselves very well while consistently learning and growing and developing. And that's why Daniel Goleman has very rightly put it, that CEOs are hired for their intellect and business expertise and fired for the lack of emotional intelligence. Also, when we talk about leadership and EQs, in addition to enhancing self-awareness, strong leaders are adaptable to their surroundings. And that is very critical when it comes to working in a working environment where you have leaders who have to take care of various responsibilities. So they are adaptable, they are transparent, and they exhibit positive energy and practice emotional self-control. Also, they are good at understanding people. So effective leaders are empathetic and they're they're service oriented and organizationally aware of their surroundings, reading people and cues well. If you look into all these traits, like I always focus on relationships, it's all about that, right? So they are relationship builders, inspiring others, influencing effectively, coaches, people, developers, team collaborators, and they're able to manage conflict as well as change. And if you look into this, developing our EQ is an ongoing effort requiring us to push out of our comfort zone. If we really want to achieve and we really want to help ourselves and our teams, we need to get out of our comfort zone. So finally, some tips to help build our EQ as well as continue to build our leadership capabilities. First, of course, learn what your triggers are and how they impact emotions. Ask for feedback from others often and openly. Don't hesitate to seek feedback. I think it's one of the best ways in which we can improve ourselves. Be an active listener and step back and look at things very objectively. Don't judge people. Just because they reacted to you or they behaved in a certain manner does not mean that we make a judgment on them. Practice deep breathing, relax your body, keep a clear mind so that you can make proper informed decisions. Focus on other people's perspectives and show interest in others. Now, when I'm saying show interest, it has to be genuine interest. Don't just say it because, okay, you have a formality to complete, but it is very important that you show genuine interest. Take time to learn the norms of organizational culture. Why do organizations thrive? Pick up any good organization where you have a good rate of people who are working for years in the same organization. That is because they value the organizational culture, the philosophy, and relationships there. Carefully read the dynamics of each situation, the people and your surroundings. nurture relationships, acknowledge others' needs and feelings. It's not always about how we feel. It's also sometimes about how the other people around us feel. Manage expectations appropriately. So building emotional intelligence is not only a strong predictor of effective leadership, but can contribute to greater productivity, performance, and ultimately profitability for all. And this is proven with research. There are a lot of studies which have supported this. So this is what we are looking for in the coming years. So leaving you with some reflections for introspection, which I would want you after the session to think about it. Our emotional intelligence affects the quality of our lives because it influences our behavior and relationships. So EQ is synonymous with self-awareness because it enables us to live our lives with intention, purpose, and autonomy. So ask yourself, are you living a life with intention, purpose, and autonomy? Many of us move through life making important decisions based on our current circumstances. Are you also one of them? We may perceive them as being beyond our ability to change, thus limiting our options and solutions. Taking time to reflect and examining why we decide to do what we do enables us to lead lives determined by our conscious intentions rather than circumstances alone. So the second food for thought, think about it. Think of the situations you were in. Did your decisions at that time be because of the circumstances alone? Or were you determined through your conscious intentions to change something in your life? Developing EQ can greatly influence our success. Our personal situations and intelligence are factors as well. However, EQ can profoundly affect our choices by creating options we may not have otherwise imagined or considered to be as possibilities. So have you ever come across in your life where you felt that some things happened which you had never imagined, and it was beyond your potential to do it, but you still did it? So lastly, to sum up, in the words of Daniel Goleman, self-absorption in all its form kills empathy, let alone compassion. When we focus on ourselves, our world contracts as our problems and preoccupations loom large. But when we focus on others, our world expands. Our own problems drift to the periphery of the mind, so seem smaller, and we increase our capacity for connection or compassionate action. And this is the truth, and this is how it is. So emotions drive people, and people will always drive performance. The researchers expect that this move away from the mechanical economy and thinking economy and towards a feeling economy will continue to speed up in the next 2 decades. And it means that if humans want jobs, they better be good at feeling. So it's all about feeling with feeling for higher productivity. Yes, so thank you so much for listening, everyone. It was great having the session with you. Yes, over to you, Neetu.
Thank you, Dr. Deepti, for such an enlightening session and getting us acquainted on EQ and giving us an excellent tool on how we can identify and work on our EQ. Thank you very much. And I thank all the participants who have attended this session. And if anyone has any question, they can ask Dr. Deepti.
Hi, I don't have any question. I just wanted to thank Neetu, Deepti both. It was a wonderful session, and I did actually. I think that I've done an honest exercise. You made us do. I'm so happy you made us do this. Originally, I thought it was just one-sided, but I'm happy that you made it interactive. We got to do something, and I think I have done an honest analysis, and I'm kind of on a borderline when it comes to being EQ, and I know where I need to improve. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Janvi. Thank you.
Honestly, the exercise was very helpful. Even I also did that. I really found it very helpful.
So it's always good to know what our EQ levels are. And the best part is we can all work on it and we can improve our EQ levels. It's not like something which is a static, levels in us. It is something which is dynamic, which changes. So if we really work towards it, I think we can really improve on it. And once you understand EQ, it's wherever you're working, whichever workplace, you will be able to understand, see people in different perspective, and you will also be able to help your counterparts and your teammates to understand their EQ levels also.
Yeah, both IQ and EQ goes hand in hand. So
Yeah.
it's really important to be emotionally intelligent. But yes, having a high EQ is also very, very important.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so beautiful exercise. I loved it.
Thank you so much.